Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. Let's meet your hosts, Chris Angel and Michael Maher.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Referrals Podcast. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Michael Maher. Michael, this episode, we're talking about becoming a member of Notevember.
Everybody should become a member of Notevember, right? It's going to become a Notevember and December to remember, right?
It's like the no shave thing, except it's going to be like a new nationwide trend of Notevember.
Yeah, and there's just certain people that should shave. You know what I mean, Chris? I'm just saying. I'm not saying any specific people.
Hey.
But I'm just saying everybody on this episode should shave. I'm just saying that not to make that about anybody in particular on this episode. But
I'm from the Northwest. We call this
it's not Movember, all right? It is like
it's about
November. And I have to tell you a quick story on how this came up. It's so funny is I was doing a mastermind about 3 years ago with a group of top producers, real estate top producers. And we're in this mastermind, super high level, 250 plus transactions, $1 million plus in net income a year. And so it was one of those where it's so funny. It's just like we're going around the room and everybody's talking. And then this one lady, the curmudgeon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know that person, right? There's always that one in every mastermind. And she was like, oh my gosh, look at this. We're coming up on November and December, and look at November. It even starts with the word no. And I'm like, I cringe, Mr. Positive in the back of the room, like she's sitting here, I'm sitting here, right? I mean, it's just like polar opposites in a lot of ways. And I just cringe. And I literally started writing down, like, if it's, what's the opposite of November, right? What's the opposite? And so at first I went, yes-vember. And that didn't have a ring to it. And I was just like, man, November is really the time of Veterans Day. It's the time of Thanksgiving. It's the time of giving thanks and, giving thanks to our veterans and giving thanks to our family and giving what's a great way to not just say thank you or tell people thank you. How do we show them that we appreciate them? How do we show thanks during the month of Thanksgiving, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the way to show thanks is the simplest way is, and in some ways the most powerful way, is a handwritten note. So I just thought Notevember. And then I decided, you know what? I really like the ring of that. And here's what we're going to do. With my team, we're going to do 30-day challenges all the time. We've done 30 days where we hold a sold sign. We've done 30 days where we post a picture of a closing. We've done 30 days of phone calls, 30 days of inviting people to events, 30 days of follow-up. We do these 30-day challenges all the time. Some are fun. Some are like 30 days of how much can you lose in 30 days, right? Biggest loser type of deal.
Yeah.
And so we did 30 notes in 30 days. And the response was off the chart just from like 10 of us sending notes out to the world. Then I opened it up to a lot of these people that I was coaching and things like that. And we sent nearly 10,000 notes. And we donated nearly $10,000 to Notes for Coats. I had a gal who was a lender out of Colorado who found out that one of the charities there, somebody had stolen all their coats out of storage that had been donated through the year. Oh. Well, because of Notevember, we replenished their supply and even more doing Notes for Coats. And for every note written, I donated $1. And then we had other people who donated per note, and it ended up raising quite a bit of money so they can replace those coats and get a better lock, hopefully, on the warehouse.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So that's how Notevember started. Now we're 4 years in, 3 years in. And so we've established a site, Notevember.com.
Wow.
People can track their notes, and it's been a lot of fun. And
it's
people are writing power notes.
That is official.
People writing power notes instead of handwritten notes. So
power notes. Well, that is we're gonna dive into that today in terms of notes, power notes. We've got a rising star on as a guest today, which I'll bring in here in just a second. But become a member of Notevember. I love that you're bringing this to the world. So world, as you're listening, this is it. Become a member of Notevember.com. .com. This is your chance. So let me introduce our guest really quick, Michael. His name is Josh Purvis. Josh is a Tennessee native. He grew up on 40 acres in the hills of Maryville. Josh loves adventure and the outdoors, led him on a journey of his life when he decided to go solo through hike through the Appalachian Trail in 2013. Now, this was right out of high school, too, which is really amazing.
Solo.
His 2,187-mile journey taught him how to persevere through any situation, no matter how tough. Josh joined the Foundation Mortgage Company in 2016 as a licensed loan officer. Again, Josh, I'm excited. I'm skipping ahead here because I'm excited to talk to you because you're wiser than your age. I love that you're on the show today. With a background of strong ethics, determination, he's eager to serve his clients and always looking for ways to exceed expectations. After being personally trained by Michael, Josh went on to become a CRT, a certified referral trainer. With this certification, he can now speak and train on the values of the 7L system. When he's not at work, he enjoys anything outdoors, coaches the Alcoa Middle School girls soccer team, and is a mentor for big brothers and big sisters. So Josh, welcome to the program. I'm excited to talk to you today about power notes.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Michael, you've known Josh for a long time actually now, right? So what else do you want to say about him before we let him talk?
So rising star, right? People need to hire him to speak like ASAP. We had CRT in January of last year, and it was he was head and shoulders above everybody else when it came to that presentation. And we're talking a really, really good group. Everybody really latched on to Josh, and he's attractive in spirit. Yeah. In a big way, right? And everybody seems to congregate around him. He has a natural energy about him. And like we said, he's a rising star. For a lot of people, he's already a star, but for the world, we're kind of letting people know about him. And he's also an implementer, right? Yeah. And that's who we have on our shows. There's people who talk a good game, but yeah. Josh wins the referral game, right? He is winning the referral game, utilizing notes and phone calls. And what really kind of launched him was using power notes. And his first presentation that he did was on the 7 steps to power note. It was so good that we had to bring him on. He's not just CRT. He's Master Series, which is those who have gone even above and beyond CRT. And now, recently, we acknowledged and awarded Josh with Master Faculty for 7L. So he is a CRT Master Faculty. So he's teaching people all over North America, English speaking. And honestly, the sky's the limit. And as soon as people listen to this podcast, they need to reach out to him and have him come speak, because he's cheaper now than he will ever be.
Yeah.
So
that's so good. So good. Well, this is a great follow-up episode too. We had Bob Berg on the last 2 episodes talking about go-givers. And I think, when you think about notes, what better way to sort of exercise influence than to use power notes. And then before that, we were talking about rituals, and we did an entire series on rituals. And I think notes are no different, right? Getting in the ritual of writing notes is a big deal. So Josh, with that, man, thank you for joining us. I'm excited to talk to you about power notes. Give us a sense of what you've seen from note writing. Just give me the big picture here so far.
Yeah, so far, the biggest thing that I've seen as, being new in the business at the time whenever I started writing notes was the impact that it can have on somebody just by doing the simple process of handwriting somebody a note. Like, it's something that people think of as, it's very easy, it's very elementary, why am I going to handwrite somebody a note? But the way that it makes you feel whenever you receive that handwritten card in the mail has made a lasting impression on my clients and on referral partners from an early stage.
I want to ask you this, like out of all the notes that you've written, especially when you establish the ritual, how do you keep it fresh? Like, how does it not just become monotonous note writing? Like, I got to write another note. Like, how do you keep it sincere?
So the biggest thing is trying to find something, about the person that you're writing to. So whether it's, your first conversation, I have a lot of my first initial conversations are over the phone. So it's coming up with something through that conversation as you're learning about the person, and then incorporating that into a note in some sort of way. So the one that comes to mind is just because I actually wrote 2 of them yesterday. Was I had talked to 2 people over the phone that were both veterans. They were both applying for VA loans. So somewhere in the note, thanking them for their service or thanking them, for their travels right now. One of them is actually in Virginia getting ready to move over here. So saying, I can't wait for somebody like you to be in our state. I look forward to meeting you in person. So it's coming up with something on a personal level like that. So where each note can be a little bit different than the next.
Yeah.
Even though there is, there's guidelines to follow with it, the 7 steps to the power note. So there is a little bit of organization to it, but there's always something that's going to be different with each one that you're writing.
Yeah. Right. I love that. When you talk about the 7 steps to the power note, like, the first step is kind of like the kind of notes we use. Like, have you noticed a difference in using a branded or an unbranded note?
Yeah. And the biggest thing that I've noticed is, of course, using the unbranded card whenever you're writing it, but it's having that personalized monogram or something that represents you. And what I've started using is that I actually wax stamp seal each card that goes out. So it's that next little step of, something personal because it's a personalized seal. But then it's even more old fashioned than what the handwritten note itself is. So it makes it that much more memorable to the person receiving it whenever they're having to actually break that wax seal.
Does it have like your initials on it, or what's the wax seal?
Right now it's just a design, and it's in the design of just like a cross right now.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I love it.
So I love that. I love the personal touch, and a couple things on this. So step 1 of 7 steps to a power note is to use unbranded cards, whereas a lot of people use branded cards, right? They'll take their whatever mortgage or whatever real estate or whatever law firm, and then they'll write on a branded card. And so first of all, so what why do you think we decide to use an unbranded or symbolic card rather than a business card?
Yeah, I mean, are you asking me or Josh?
Josh, yeah.
The biggest reason is because with a power note, you're not writing to sell somebody something. You're writing to show that you care about them as a person. You're making a personal connection with them, as opposed to if you're sending something out that says, blank real estate company, then even if you're writing them and saying, something caring or wanting to show that you care, in the back of their head, they're seeing real estate and they're like, you're only writing me to sell me some real estate.
That's
so
right.
If you're taking that out of it, then it becomes that much more personable whenever you're writing.
That's right. And I tell you, another great thing on that too is that there are places for your notes with your logo. And I'm sure there's people listening to this today that are like, oh my gosh, I just bought 1,000 of these notes, that have my logo on it. Well, you know what? After you meet a client, send them a card with your business logo on it, right? After let's say you're a realtor, after a listing appointment, sending a note, thanking them for seeing you about business makes a lot of sense. After a networking event, it makes sense maybe to use that type of note. But I would say that you want to graduate the relationship from business to personal, because people give referrals personally. They don't give referrals to companies. They don't refer companies. They refer people. So it's one of those where they recommend companies, but they refer people. So it's very important that you want to graduate. So for me, it's like a listing appointment. I write a handwritten note on a logoed card, and then we start working together, and then we get their home under contract. My congratulatory note for making a great decision and negotiating it through is going to be on a personal card. It's going to have it's right here. So this was what they would receive, right? This is Thomas Kincaid. I love lighthouses. A lighthouse is a symbol for me. So I would just take out the card. I would write on the lighthouse card, and they would, probably get two more of those before the transaction closed. And what I'm hoping is we go from this is just a transactional relationship contract to close to this is a friend relationship, or at least a collegial relationship forever, right? So I love that. So that's the first step. It's amazing. I mean, look, there's probably a lot of people learning just from the first step of the 7 steps to a power note. What's the second step?
So the second step is to write with blue ink.
Yeah, tell me about that. Why does that matter? What's the distinction of blue ink?
So blue looks original and positive. So you don't want to write with black because it's a little bit too professional. It's a little too corporate. And then red ink will have a negative indication to it for most people. So like you mentioned earlier, I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail out of high school. Well, did that a lot because I wasn't a good student. So, red ink being crossed out on all your papers as a kid, you see a lot of red if you're not a good student. So I don't want to see red on a handwritten note whenever I'm receiving it. So that's what corresponds with a lot of people in their mind is red ink from red grading and stuff like that.
Fascinating, the patterns we carry from our childhood forward, in life. And the simplest thing like red ink could like trigger a feeling that doesn't feel good. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and color matters, right? The number one favorite color in the world, the one that's the color that's chosen the most as a favorite color is blue. And not only that, but I mean, when you go to the title, even today, I just closed on a home recently, right? And, the blue ink, they had us sign all the papers in blue ink. There was a page that we needed to go home and print out. And they said, hey, listen, make sure you sign it in blue ink before you bring it back to us tomorrow. Yeah. Right. So it's like blue ink, it means real. It means original. It means authentic. Blue is used in really important situations. Well, so if the relationship is important and you want to come across as real and authentic and genuine, then use blue ink. Makes sense.
Josh, side note, I'm curious if you have a certain pen that you like to use. Like I love some Pilot G2s, some G2 gel pens are incredible. And do you have a favorite kind of pen?
So actually like daily note taking, whenever I'm just like writing in the office, G2s are what I use all the time, but I'm left-handed. So whenever I'm doing a handwritten note with any kind of ink, I smear everything. So I actually get the like least expensive blue ballpoint pen you can find because the ink dries really fast. So nice. I use those just because I don't want to smear the ink all over the card. But other than that, I use nicer pens because it doesn't matter if I smear it a little bit. It's just for my sake. But yeah.
What's that, Michael? Is that a G2? I lost your audio. This
is a Gen branded blue ink pen, right?
Yes.
So we got to get that out, right?
We got to get the Gen
there
pen.
It is.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful pen.
Thank you.
I love it. So tell me about step number 3, Josh. What's step number 3?
So step number 3 is to use words like you and your in the letter. Avoid I, me, and my, because like we talked about earlier, the letter or the power note is going to be more about the person that you're writing and less about you. You're not selling yourself. You're writing to write about them and show that you care for them.
Give me an example of that. Like, dear Bob, you are such a wonderful person. Like, walk me through like how that goes.
So mine usually go like the first one that I'll write is after a pre-qualification, after I talk to him about a pre-qualification. So it's, hey, Bob, it was so great talking to you today. Once you start going through the home buying process, there's a lot of things that come up. We look very forward to helping serve you and answering any questions that you might have along the way.
Got it.
So it's not about like, I'm the best, loan officer. I'm going to answer any questions that you have. It's about, I know you're going to be stressed, so let us know what we can do to help, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Working by referral is not some fairy tale world. It's real. I've seen it. And you can too. Invest in yourself by learning how to run your business by referral at Michael's upcoming live event. It will be a day filled with hands-on, how-to, low to no-cost strategies that you can implement in your business right away. Learn how to run a business by referral that not only feeds your family, but feeds your soul. Go to www.gengenevents.com today. That's www.gengenevents.com.
It's so helpful to just have an example. I love it. Thanks for that.
Yeah. It's like this. I just got this one from Sharon Hires out of Jacksonville, right? It's thank you and your team for the great CRT training. She could have said, I had a great time or a great experience. She didn't use the word I, right? Then it was a little stressful, but we learned a lot, which, I mean, that's true. And notice it was we as the audience, not necessarily her and her team. So much talent was in that room. It made it so exciting. And then congratulations on Referrals Magazine. What a perfect idea. You must be so proud. I'm planning on being on the cover someday. Now that's probably a pretty good place to use I'm. Until then, how can I help you? I'm happy, or not even I'm happy to help. It actually says happy to help. So she took out the I'm and just said happy to help, and then said to your success, Sharon Hires. And then she had a really good PS, which we'll talk about later. So
nice. That's
awesome.
awesome.
Just from yesterday's mail. So, got
it.
So you and yours also marketing, right? So, some of the keywords in marketing, if you're going to do a headline, it's use the words like new and improved, use words like guaranteed, use words like success and freedom, and use words like, I think I said free. I don't know if I said free, but the thing is one of the most powerful words to use in a title is the word you, right? And you want to, if you can use that word inside your 7 steps to a power note, then what happens is it's about them, right? And it really is all about them, and they can, they're going to internalize it more. Then I have another one here that I'm not going to show. Every sentence started with I, and it's like, if there is one thing humans need to adapt, is there's not enough space between their eyes. Right? We need to have more space between our eyes, and we need to be more into the U's and less into the I's. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. I like it. Well, Josh, take me to the next step. What's the next step that you are implementing in the Power Notes?
So number 4 is to be specific in your praise. So this is where I use those personalized touches in the Power Note of, something about the person, like I mentioned earlier, talking to 2 people that were veterans yesterday, implementing that somewhere in the letter to, thank them for their service. Or, if we're talking and I know that they're looking in a certain area because of the school zone, bringing up the kids, look forward to hearing about them and sports and everything like that. So it's whatever you can put in the card to show that you actually listened during the conversation, and that it isn't just something that you send out to everybody.
Josh, did you find over time that you got better at I can see somebody trying to start Power Notes and just being like, man, I don't even know what to say. What do I say? Have you found it just gets easier to find these things to say? Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely gets easier. And one of the biggest mistakes and struggles I had early on too is, I started writing notes and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to write everybody a note. Well, if you write everybody a Power Note that you talk to in a day, I mean, I started writing 10 to 15 Power Notes a day. Some days was I was doing 20 of them. Well, what happened was now all of those were getting very generic. They were getting repetitive. I wasn't remembering, personal things about people that I was talking to because I had 20 of them to write. So it's, you start doing the repetitive things in that. So really try to just write 1 or 2 a day. I average doing about 7 to 10 a week, depending on the week, depending on how many closings there were, how many pre-qualifications there were. But, try to leave it to where you're not overdoing it, because then it leaves it with that more personal touch.
Do you also find that now that you're talking to people, that you're asking more pointed questions in order to uncover some of these things that you can acknowledge in people?
Yes. Yeah. The conversations are definitely a lot more personable whenever I'm talking to them on the phone. It's, it's not just about their finances, to find out how much they could qualify for a house. It's asking the right questions so that I know at a later time, whenever I'm writing this power note, that there's something good that I can say there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And also I've received notes many times where it just says, like, it's a thank you note, says thank you in like swirly font on the front. And then I open it up and it says, thank you. And then it doesn't have a name. right. And it's like, yeah, okay,
that's
thank
not very
you.
powerful.
And then I will throw that note away. Right. No, I mean, it's no offense or anything like that, but it's like, what are they thanking me for?
That's not
right.
A power note,
And there's nothing like getting a power note from somebody, and it's like there is something you only said in passing. In fact, you might have even forgotten that you said it, and then it's in their note. And it's just like they listened so well. And listening is currency in the current marketplace, right? Listening shows focus, it shows professionalism, it shows unselfishness, it shows generosity. So, sometimes the number one thing we can pay people is to pay attention. And that's pay attention, don't just listen to the words. You want to also listen to the music behind the words, right? Where the passion comes out, where the you can just tell when something resonates. We had a meeting today with my team where we do a year of, hey, let's do a Referco monthly team meeting. So we just oversaw and it's just so funny is watching Mandy talk about Referrals Magazine. She's the project manager on it. And she lit up and just like, she talked about a lot of projects, but you could tell Referrals Magazine is a passion project for her. The podcast is a passion project for Sherry, right? I mean, it's like the music behind the words is in many cases more important than just actually the words.
I think what this is making me think of, how you show up for people or how you show up to people can often make the difference in whether whether you're referable or not. Yeah. And some sort of mechanism, like Josh is talking about with you're talking with power notes, like to have a mechanism where it causes you to show up and listen better because you know that you want to acknowledge people a certain way, which I'm kind of jumping ahead to step 5. But when you know that you can listen for the music, as Michael says, just makes you
a better listener, right? And you have a reason to be a better listener. In the beginning, I think a lot of people implement this is they listen better so that they can be specific with the praise so that they can write a better note. And that's okay with me.
That's okay.
But what happens is you start practicing that. Yep. All of a sudden you're getting more referrals. Yep. You're getting more better response from the people. You're getting all these, all these things. And I have to tell you, when I coach on power notes, many times I do focus on be specific with your praise, right? The others are kind of mechanics. Yeah. But it's like in the beginning, I just be specific with your praise. Find something magical about the other person. I've always said, hey, listen, everybody has a spark inside of them. And in some cases, it's just a burning ember or a charcoal that's even about to go out. But what we can do is we can take that spark or take that ember out of them and fan on it and blow on it. And like that fire will grow immensely, right? So it's like it and eventually what you do is you see the diamond inside of that fire, and that's really what people have inside of them. It just needs to be cleaned off and polished and some light shown on it, and that's what we want to really look for in the other person is what is that diamond. And honestly, one-on-ones or a phone call is really, for me, it's mining for diamonds, like mining for the diamond. What's the diamond within that just like fires them up? Like Chris talking to you, it was your kids, right? And it was your foundation, right? And you're really here to help people, right? And then the podcast, right? So it was like these things combined, and it's one of those where it's it's a beautiful thing when we actually can see inside people and they let us see. Intimacy is the word that comes up. It's into me you see, right? That's intimacy. Into me you see. Intimacy is when you allow someone to see into you. So it's amazing when somebody allows you to see into that. And listen, that's a responsibility. That is an enormous responsibility, and we need to take that like it is a diamond, very valuable. And the note says, hey, listen, I saw your diamond, and here's what I think your diamond is. And you know what? Your diamond is beautiful, and thank you for showing me your diamond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's a great segue, Josh, into step 5. Like, what's step 5 of the power note?
Yeah, so step 5 is leveraging the power of positive projection, which Michael just went really in depth on. And the biggest thing for me that really helped with writing the power note and focusing on the power of positive projection is whenever I was getting started, and honestly, still to this day, I do some, it was a lot of cold calls. So, we still do in our office a lot of cold calls, whenever we're not out building relationships to help bring in new business. Well, with writing the power notes to these people that, you're literally calling off of, whether it's a Zillow or realtor.com ad, I'm getting them in, but then I'm still writing them a power note, and I'm remembering certain things that happened in that conversation that I've actually been getting referrals from those leads before we even closed the deal. So that was the first kind of aha that I got whenever I started doing this, was because, being brand new in the business, the way that I was getting business was from cold calls. Well, then whenever I started writing power notes and I was getting referrals from those people that I was calling, it's like, wow, this is something very powerful, obviously.
Right.
So then I started writing more and more and more and keeping up with it. And then that's kind of where it just developed the craft from it. So it's, you can start at any time really with finding people to write to. You don't have to have a ginormous database to, get business from it. You just got to start somewhere.
If I were someone else, I'm like, oh my God, you're getting referrals from leads? Are you telling me that you're getting Oh my God. I mean, if I'm like I'm Gary V, right? Oh my God, what? You mean you're getting referrals from leads, from effing leads? Oh my God. Like, Chris, this has to be in the show notes. How to get referrals from cold call leads. That has to be in there, right?
Yeah,
He's getting, here's the other thing. Josh, some of these referrals, you've never met the lead. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right, this is my Gary V. What? Yeah. Oh my God. You're getting referrals from people you've never met? What what's funny is Chris and I, we're both sitting here like this I'm getting referrals from leads. We're both like, that's how the system works. Right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, are you getting referrals from people that have never met you and you've never met? And we're like, I mean, we've almost become desensitized. Well, of course it works. Right. But if I'm like, Gary V or some of these hosts, it's like, wait a second. Are you telling me that you are getting referrals from cold call leads, people that have not worked with you, and you're getting referrals from like people you've never met? And that's where you go. Yeah, all the time.
Power notes.
Oh, yeah.
Power notes.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something powerful in, in step 5 where you're actually identifying something about the person, right? That you respect, a quality that they have. I mean, that's different. That stands out. Like everybody else that's cold calling those people don't do that. They're like, hey, do you want to buy my thing? Do you want to buy my thing? And here you are having a conversation, and then you follow up with a power note that acknowledges something positive.
Yeah, it's like the typical cold caller, like a woodpecker. You know what I mean? They're like peck, 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 and they're trying to corner and connive and just really it's look at my hand motions, right? Like corner and like connive. And whereas Josh is more like an eagle, right? Hey, look at all this area, right? Look at all this land, look at all this freedom, right? Look at this view, right? And just more like bringing them in versus chasing, right? It's about attracting, not chasing. And listening is very attractive. Yeah. And the other power of using positive projection is a psychological term. There's negative projection. Negative projection is putting other people down to make ourselves feel better, right? So, if we struggle with our eating habits, then when we go and we're out to eat, we will see fatter people. We will see people who are scarfing their food. And the reason we do that, and we'll even say something sometimes, oh my God, look at that pig, right? When really, when you're pointing at a pig, there's 3 other fingers pointing back to you, right? And we all have insecurities, and we tend to look for people who are in a worse situation to make ourselves feel better about our insecurities. It starts in the middle school and goes from there. But if there's a negative projection, there must be a positive projection. And I'm a product of positive projection in that I will look for people who have strengths that I need development in. Like with eating habits, instead of seeing the pigs, instead of seeing the people scarf their food down, I'm looking for the healthy ones. I'm acknowledging healthy people. I'm writing handwritten notes to people who take a lot of pride. Christina Larson out of Kansas City, she owns a gym, and she's always helping people be in better fit, right? And it's like organization. When I started in real estate, I was very disorganized. I knew I needed to get organized. So I wrote handwritten notes to people who were more organized. And I noticed, be specific with your praise, what they were doing to be more organized. So by noticing what they were doing to be more organized, I became more organized. I did the things they were doing. So the power of the power note isn't just the power of improving the relationship with the other person. It's actually the power of improving your relationship with yourself, and it's a self-improvement. Writing a handwritten note is a self-improvement device as much as it is a relationship improving device.
That's good. That's really good. That's strong. Josh, I want to know, so we're going to get down to step 6 and 7 here. I kind of want to know step 6, walk me through that really quick, and then we'll jump into step 7.
Yeah, so step 6 is honestly the weirdest one to me that I heard of at first was write rightly. So I know a lot of the listeners are going to be, confused, like what does write rightly mean? So, I mean, if you have, a card that you're getting ready to write on, you're normally writing just straight across. Right. Naturally, it kind of starts to slope down a little bit too, as you're writing straight across if you don't have notebook lines. Well, what writing rightly does is it actually shows positive projection as well in the writing, and it shows a little bit more free form in itself. So it's positive and it's going up as opposed to just being, stationary and writing straight across. So it's another one of kind of like the blue ink, those small little psychological triggers that you have to where you can make it more appealing to somebody. Yeah. That was the thing I struggled with. Yeah, Michael's showing there. So writing slightly up and to the right. And that was something I struggled with for a long time, just because it's, to most people, not natural to do something like that. So now it is, though, like every time I write a card, instantly, as soon as I'm writing it, I just turn it a little bit so that I'm writing straight, but it's going to appear that it's slightly up and to the right. Which is advantageous for you being left-handed, because then you're not smearing. Yeah. Right? You're never smearing, because this is, and this comes from a book by Vimela Rogers called Your Handwriting Can Change Your Life. And she wrote about, she just analyzed, she took all of the handwriting analysis experts and all they're doing and her observation, put them together, and she discovered that super successful people, in Warren Buffett and some of these people, Richard Branson, when they wrote their notes, they went upwards and to the right. And they did it naturally. And it's because of the way their brain thinks in terms of growth. If you want your sales, do you want your sales to go down? Do you want them to stay level? Or do you want them to go up? All the things that we want to grow in life, the pattern is upward and to the right. And I love how you said that you tilted it. And you got to love that as a lefty,
because you're no longer smearing your you're always writing on fresh ink or fresh space instead of smearing, the pinky smear. And the other part of that too is what I do as a righty is I keep the note pretty much flat, but I put their name in the upper left-hand corner. I go to the first line and I write hitting that upper right corner, right? So I aim. So I'll write the name. Yeah. Where did I put that? This is not my note. This is a sample note, but it'll show you. So, right. So the name is right there. And then I'll go here. Now with her, she literally wrote her line up into the top. I take it and I write across and up to that corner. And then that keeps my lines gently sloping upward and to the right. And hey, if it's good enough for the super successful and it's going to exude a more positive, optimistic, and successful person, then I'm all for it. Here's the other thing that I noticed after I read that book. That book actually made a pretty good impact on me. I went back and I looked at some of the handwritten notes I've received over time, and I knew some people who had some issues with bipolarism and depression. And interestingly enough, their notes slope off and down.
Wow.
So
interesting.
There's something to it. And the thing is maybe there's nothing to it, but maybe there is. So I'm going to side on the side of, I feel better when I write the notes going up and to the right.
You know what they say? There's like the study, like when you people that profile or do like interrogations. If you look down, you're lying. Our dreams live up and to the right in our head. Like when we think about our dreams, you actually like our eyeballs will go up and to the right like that. And that's just interesting how those things correlate. Well, Josh, bring us home here. Bring us home with step number 7 here. The PS, the power of the PS. Yeah.
Yeah, so the power of PS is really what you want to use as your call to action. So it's something that I use in all of my handwritten notes as, it can be something as simple as, I'd love to hear from you. It's been a while since we've last spoke, leave the number at the bottom and expect a call back from them. Or it could be, PS, I know soccer season's around the corner. I hope that your kid does great in the games. So something, again, personable, but something that can be as a call to action to, get them to call or email you. And that way you get to talk to them even more and get back in front of them.
Yeah, so good. Michael, you had a note earlier where you said there's a PS, and we'll get to that later. Did you want to share anything from that note?
Yeah, so a couple things to just add to this is first of all, on the overall note is how to get your note opened even faster and quicker and every single time is to use colored envelopes, right? Use colored envelopes for your handwritten notes. I use it, this is Sharon Hires, right? I mean, it's like very bright, very colorful, Florida, right?
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. So the bright, it's almost neon yellow. And then, another note on the PS that I've found is kind of a little secret, I tend to be a little verbose, right? So I tend to write too much sometimes, and then I forget the PS, or I'm trying to figure out where to put the PS. So write the PS first, right? Write your PS first, and then fit your note inside the name and the PS. And that's usually 3 or 4 sentences at the most, which is a really good, powerful amount of room for a note, right? And then you want to take your PS to the next level. I have taught this for years, and this is something I did. It's in the book in 7L, is put your PS on a Post-it note. Put your PS on a Post-it note. Then you don't have to. And I actually discovered this by accident because I wrote the note and I didn't have room. I literally took both panels and there was logos and stuff on the back, so there wasn't any room. So I was like, no, but I really need them to call me. So I did a Post-it note, and they called it, and they were just like, oh my gosh, that the Post-it note totally stood out. I mean, I probably would. And this is the very, very successful person who really complimented the Post-it note. And, you know, is that something you do regularly? And the answer right after that was, was yes, of course. So, you know, using the PS is powerful. Just have a PS, write the PS first, and then, you know, taking it to the next level, using a colored, you know, Post-it note for your PS can make it even stand out more. And they can rip out the Power Note and put it on their desk if they're that type of person. So
I love it. Josh, give us some final parting wisdom on where people, like, if I want to get started with Power Notes, like what's the easiest way to kind of like, what's the path of least resistance to get going and start implementing the Power Notes?
Really, I mean, is doing it. So just pick one person a day that you're going to write. So you're going to have multiple people a day that you're talking to as a business professional. Just pick one a day, you know, start paying attention to what you're saying to them more, you know, start making notes in your head as to something special about them that you want to write them about. And then just, you know, start picking one a day and start sitting down, writing it. And it's going to be a progression. You know, my notes now are, of course, a lot better than what they were 2 years ago whenever I started writing them. But if I would have never started 2 years ago, then I wouldn't be getting the referrals today that I get from it.
have you discovered your handwriting's better?
You know, I haven't. To me, honestly, sometimes it gets worse day to day. It has not been improving.
It's so true. And people are like, well, my handwriting's horrible. Well, guess what? What if I told you the fact that if your handwriting's horrible, it means even more to the recipient, right? Because they know, like, you know what, this had to be something that was difficult to write, right? The ones I get that are all flowery prose and like perfect writing, it's like that person loves to write. But if I get one that's from someone that it's you know, you can just tell, right, that maybe they really went to pains to write this. And I will tell you, the number one handwritten note I've ever received in my life had a bunch of misspellings. It had backwards letters, and it was a handwritten note that I got from my son when he was 3 years old that said, "I love you, Daddy, and I love playing baseball with you," and that kind of thing. And so it's one of those where, you know, don't let your handwriting ever prevent you from writing. The only bad handwritten note is the one unwritten. And we need to write it. We need to get it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I've had notes where I crossed out a word, right? I've had notes where, you know, I had a misspelling and then I had to add an E or whatever it may be, you know, right above, right? It doesn't matter. It's just like, it's the feeling that matters. It's the count. And this whole thought of thought plus action, you thought of them when they weren't in the room and you took action on it. That's the power of a gift. Why are gifts so cool, right? Especially a thoughtful gift, is because somebody thought of us when we weren't there and they took action on it. So it's like, oh my God, this is awesome, right? So it's one of those where it's so inexpensive to do this, and it can make such a big difference in your world. I'm so glad you were here to share on this, Josh. And I hope what's your address? How do they write you? I have two challenges for everybody out there that's listening. One, write a handwritten note to Josh Purvis. Number two, join the 30-day challenge of Notevember at Notevember.com. That's Notevember.com. And your first note could be Josh Purvis, right? So Josh, how do they write you?
Yeah, so my address is 123 Center Park Drive.
Is it really?
Sweet.
Are you just giving us
Yeah.
This is like a girl giving me a fake number, dude. It's like 555-0605. What?
Man,
wait, the 555
get that all the time.
Yeah, so 123 what?
Yeah.
Anywhere street?
123 Center Park Drive, Suite 101, Knoxville, Tennessee 37922.
And Josh Purvis is JoshPurvis, Josh Purvis. And he just gave you his address. Make sure you write your first handwritten note of Notevember to him.
I love it.
And
can't wait to read them.
That gets you started on the thing. So
That's so good.
Good stuff.
You guys know, listening to this, that we always have some type of a download for you. If you guys want to get the download where it actually outlines the 7 steps of the Power Note, you can go to referralspodcast.com, referrals, plural, referralspodcast.com. You guys can grab the 7 steps to a Power Note there, print it out, hang it on your wall so that every day as you're doing your Power Notes, you have that reminder. Josh, thank you for your time today, your expertise. It's fun to watch what you're doing in the world and all the success you're having. So, in my opinion, so young. Like, you know, if I just had my head on my shoulders like you do now, it's like, where would I be? It's a beautiful thing. Michael, thanks again for a great episode. We'll catch all of you listening out there in the world next time in the next episode. Till then, see ya.
Thanks, Chris and Mike.